Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Amazon Conservation session on building a forest-based economy in the Amazon. My name is John Beavers, and I'm the Executive Director of the Amazon Conservation Association, and I will be your moderator for today's forum. So the purpose of our session today is to discuss some of the key elements important to establishing a forest-based economy or bioeconomy that can create the instances to provide climate resilience, ensure the survival of the Amazon's ecosystems and its biodiversity, and of course, protect the resource base needed for a sustainable economic development path. The sustainability and survival of the Amazon, as we all know, is more important and urgent than ever. But a major part of the sustainability answer for the Amazon requires a major paradigm shift. From our view, the local and national economies can fully and sustainably optimize the use of healthy forests as a path to a just and prosperous way of life, and for the effective conservation of the Amazon at scale through a great forest-based economy or bioeconomy. I would just like to say that a few words about Amazon conservation. Our focus as an organization and our concern comes from 21 years of work on the ground, both in Bolivia and Peru, through ACA in Peru and ASEA in Bolivia. Both organizations work very closely with indigenous communities and forest-based producers, primarily in major forest commodities like Brazil nuts, acai, and other associated products. We also work very closely with governments to establish and strengthen protected areas. And in Peru especially, we've been working over the last 6 years focusing on better protection and law enforcement for local people against environmental crimes. Something I don't think we were setting out to do 20 years ago, but that we've ended up having to do a lot of work there. We also work with universities, researchers, and other organizations to produce the science and technology that helps us better understand and monitor the changes to the region's forests, both in Bolivia and in Peru through our 3 biological stations there. Just a short note on our technology. Some of you may know our MAP program, which is MAAP, the Monitoring of the Andes Amazon Project, which focuses on real-time monitoring across the entire Amazon for illegal deforestation, fires, and other aspects of forest health. But today, we're going to focus on the economic side of the work going on in the Bolivian and Peruvian Amazon by local people who are on the front line of its protection and sustainable use, and are on the first to feel the direct impacts of economic ups and downs, and also the impacts of a changing climate on their daily lives, and of course on their natural resource base that they are depending on to thrive. So for this session, I am just checking because I know that Tom Lovejoy was going to join us this morning, but he unfortunately can't.
He's here.
Connect. Oh, Tom, great. I'm so happy to have Tom here. So what I'd like to do is, without further ado, before getting into the next the sessions, I want to introduce Tom Lovejoy. Thank you for being here, Tom, who is the Senior Fellow at the UN Foundation, President of the Amazon Biodiversity Center in Brazil, University Professor at George Mason University. He has many other titles as well, but we're grateful to have Tom as a member of also as Amazon Conservation's Board of Directors. So very happy to have him here. As many of you know, Tom is one of the proponents of the Amazon's tipping point, and along with Carlos Nobre, and he will set the stage for us today for the challenges and opportunities we face in the Amazon. Tom, it's great to have you here. Welcome. So please turn on your microphone and take it away.
So just as introductory remarks to remind everybody that the Amazon does make half of its own rainfall. And that's because of what trees and leaves do in a weather system that moves from the Atlantic to the Andes. And it is at a point right now close to which there is insufficient moisture for the southern and eastern Amazon to actually support rainforests. And you can see the initial stages of a transition to savanna vegetation, which is not in anybody's particular interest. So the solution is is to build back the capacity of the forests to generate moisture. And it goes way beyond that to the kinds of things that John was referring to in terms of a new vision for Amazon economies, in which it is largely forest dependent, does not lead to replacement of forests by plantation of palm oil, for example. But I wanted to flag one other issue, which we touch on from time to time, but it seemed like a particularly apt moment to be explicit about it, and that is infrastructure. So on both sides of the border of all of these countries, there is long-term interest in transportation infrastructure. And the vast majority of it has been designed and built according to old-fashioned models, 50-year-old models. And they totally ignore what that infrastructure makes possible. So it really makes economic sense. And the periodic attempts from time to time to run a road through the Serra do Divisor National Park are just an abysmal and sad example of that. So I think one of the things that we all need to do is be in regular contact on both sides of borders, which have such infrastructure projects, engage in the local discussions about those infrastructure projects and what are better ways to do them and what are definitely not good ways to do them. So that wherever the bad idea starts, there will be a local and informed populace which can argue against it. And I would just strongly urge that you add this to your important bioeconomy agenda. So thank you.
So thank you very much, Tom. And I appreciate you setting the stage for us as we talk about bioeconomy. And to move forward, many of you saw in the white paper that accompanies this program that we have divided our discussion into three major areas of focus. One is strengthening the capacity of local people or local SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises. And it's those functioning across the Amazon that are key. And then being able to scale all of those businesses into something that really becomes an economic motor for the Amazon. So scaling is the second major piece. And then being able to build in the climate resilience and adaptation that's going to be required by any community, by any business, by any country to guarantee that we're able to weather the storm, if you will, of the changes that are going to come with climate change. So those are the three topics of discussion today. And just a couple of notes. We will go through all three sessions, and then we will have a brief question and answer at the end of all three, at the end when we're done with all three. Please submit your questions as you're listening to us as soon as you have them through the chat box that's on this platform, and we will sort through them so that at the very end we'll be able to have a good discussion as we move forward. So once again, thank you, Tom, for being here with us today and speaking with us. And now I want to pass on to our first group. I want to pass the microphone to Marcos Terán. He's the executive director of our sister organization, Conservación Amazónica, ASEA, in Bolivia, and he'll frame and moderate our first section on local production capacity. So take it away, Marcos.
Muchas gracias, John. Es un gusto poder Thank you. I am very happy to share this session with you and of course greet the panel members. Talking about bioeconomy, if we are talking about forest-based economy, we cannot overlook the aggression to the Amazonian region. An example of such the rubber, like Caucho Silesia, and of course other products. This contributes to the economy and has set the basis for linkages and for the production capacity for other products. Now, other regions having such a link with this is not frequently, and the availability of these products is only part of the equation we still need for capacities to be improved, for them to be sustainable, therefore improving revenue and adding value. We also need to increase business capacities at local and international level for new products like native palm tree products like acai. In this section, we will be talking about local production in Bolivia and Peru and how this information contributes to the creation of capacity. And in order to do that, we are very happy to have Enexu Justiniano, who is mayor of one of the communities of Pandiu, Bolivia, and she is the youngest mayor in Bolivia. And she is a leader of one of the municipalities that is spearhead of the use and use of these processes. And we also have one of the producers of chestnut and selling now produced with chestnuts that are locally harvested, and in 2020 achieved a sustainable commerce certification. And then Daniel Larrea, coordinator of the Science and Technology Program of ASEA, Conservación Amazónica, with great experience in the management of response of flora to human aggressions with the use of a number of biogeographical, ecological, and management tools for the use of the Amazonic region. First, I would like to listen to Gresley Justiniano to hear what she has to say. Gresley, please. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to greet all the participants. I'm Gresley Justiniano Duran. I am mayor of Porvenir. I am going to summarize for you what our municipality, El Porvenir, is. This municipality is in the state of Pando in the Nicolás Suarez province, and the extension is 1,075 square kilometers. In this community, in this municipality, we have 19 farmer communities, and we are fortunate enough to have a wide amount of our municipality reflecting the Amazonic forest. And we have highly valuable species, as Marco said. We have acai, chestnut, mango, palm tree of different sorts. And the most important things of them, are those that contribute to the benefit and well-being of our people, including acai and chestnut. It is important to mention that as municipality and state, we have volume and labor necessary in order to optimize production and scale to a larger market. As municipality, we are very much interested in fostering the, of course, sustainable development of our local population with integral management of the forest. Therefore, in August 2020, we created the municipal area called Natural Integrated Management Forest with 31,000 hectares across 5 communities, namely Trinchera, Cinco de Agosto, Nueva Esperanza, Agua Rica, and San Luis communities. It is important to say that our municipality is close to Pando capital city, and we have a border along Brazil with Brazil. Therefore, we have access to different markets, such as the Trinchera community. Trinchera community is a pioneer and a referral for pulpasai with high value. In order to strengthen productive chains and diversify Amazonic fruits such as palma real and mango. We also have producers or growers that using agroforestry systems work with copoaçu, cocoa, coffee, and other fruit products.
Next one, please. Here you can see in this regard, and to highlight that Assaí has gone through a transformation and a better process in order to make the sustainable appropriation of the forest itself. Finally, in our municipality, it has been categorized as municipal, national and international reference that hosts tourists because we are along the banks of the majestic Tamaguano River, and this is a great attraction for the people who will visit us today. We have presented and we have highlighted something which is very, very important as the second version of the state fair. This has been called the cultural heritage of our municipality, where we can not only enjoy the different foods, the culinary delicacies, but also the diversity of the Amazonia and the flowers our municipality has. And finally, next one, please. Finally, we conclude with the slogan, which is the Amazonian future, which is the pride that joins us all together. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gresley. It's very interesting to see that how through public policy we can promote the development of the forests for the community and the municipality. Next, we will have Sara Hurtado's vision, and she will give us the vision of how this is created. The General Manager of INCAP. Good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss these topics with you as well as our experiences. Well, I am an advisor and I have been for several years, and we have created a family business that was created in 2004, and we restarted our activities in 2013 because we thought it was advisable to consolidate the entrepreneurial issue. As you can tell, this has been a very difficult task because of the experience and the work to be done was to be collected and had to be perfected. Well, we have at this time over 7 presentations of products which are the result of a chestnut, and for this purpose we have all the information of the concessionaires who are nearby because we're also partners of these chestnut grower associations. And next one, please. Well, as you can tell, we are concessionaires. We enter into an agreement, a renewable 40-year agreement. And well, at the forest, we gather chestnuts, we peel them off, and we take them to the plant. We provide added value to the process. Here you can see the different products we are gathering, and we are having a better production with them. Next one, please. Now, how do we connect ourselves with the market? We participate in or at rather different national, international, regional fairs, but we also have a store at the local market. Next, we have marketing points at airports, and we also have clients who place their orders. Next, in this activity of this product, forest product, which is a non-wooden product, which is chestnut, we are taking care this endeavor in order to prevent the cutting of these cutters who are vulnerating the forest. We are really benefiting this because what we see is the best use and the best possible use for chestnut because here we can only see a 0.5 and I am mentioning the trees we have in the forest and the chestnut's density. We also have some other areas where we can see how the global change has taken place, where we are going to plant cocoa, and with this we will be able to improve everything, because what is the purpose of the industry? Well, to promote and give work to locals and to promote more resources for our growers. Well, one other alternative perspective implies that we are very close to the transoceanic highway, and this is very important, and also there are very many people living there. And we also have to take into account the wine growing areas, and therefore we have potential care for this endeavor. So next one, please. Well, I thank you all very much for having listened to my presentation, and at any time I would like to invite you to enjoy these delicious, scrumptious products which are produced by chestnut. Thank you very much, Sara. And it's very important to know firsthand, well, how this value aggregation factor has to do with economy scale. Now I would like to invite Dr. Larrea in order for him to explain us how this can really give rise to production and market connections. Thank you very much, Marcos. As you can see here on the slide, we have chestnut. Chestnut is in our hands, and actually, this is very important for communities who depend upon this resource, because they are important to preserve the Amazonia. In Bolivia and in the rest of Amazonia, we know that chestnut, almonds, and Amazonian nuts are very important to preserve the forests we have in our country, at least in this part. And here we see that this represents 60% of the surface, and we see that as a whole, this sums up to these chestnuts, which are a key factor in order for the families who produce and trade this product have. Well, this has been used for several decades, and we know that approximately these trees can produce 236,000 of chestnut with the husk. Bolivia exports from 20 to 26,000 tons of chestnut. It is chestnut that does not have the husk, and it can be exported, and this represents only from 8 to 9% of the production, the estimated production, in spite that it is a highly consolidated industry in the case of Bolivia, but we are only using from 8 to 9% of the full potential Bolivia has. This amount of chestnut that leaves the country represents 130 and 135 million dollars, and this is about 9% of the GDP in Bolivia, and Bolivia has been consolidating itself as the main chestnut exporter. We have from 75 to 80% world production that comes out of the Amazonian forest in Bolivia, and we have about 87,000 people who participate in this production chain. And I am speaking about the planting, the harvesting, and the selling. And we know that from 60 to 70%, very many indigenous and peasant families depend upon this resource. Therefore, it is of the utmost importance. But together with this, we need to create information that will help us to make informed decisions. What you see here has been thought at a national scale in Bolivia, and we have presented this information. However, we also need this information at this scale, and for this purpose we are implementing monitoring and early alert of the chestnut in order to prevent what happened in 2017. There was a sharp decrease of what we had until that year, and that system is aimed at creating field information of what type of chestnut, the reproductive patterns, in order to articulate this information with the climate, with the weather, which is fundamental. We are creating a network of climatic stations in order for us to really anticipate those disasters as the one we had in 2017. We understand that the Amazonian forest in Bolivia is key, and actually it forms part of the flying rivers that arrive from the Atlantic, and everything that is done in this regard is fundamental in order to understand the precipitation factors we have in the lowlands, for instance, Llanos de Majas and La Chiquita. We are convinced that information and technology are key in order to make sound decisions at the different scales this resource has. And with the allies we're working with, we think that preserving a healthy forest will make it productive and will really help the families who live in this forest. And if the forest is healthy, productive, it will resist the climate change effects we are seeing on an everyday basis. Well, this is what I wanted to say in short vis-a-vis what chestnut is in Bolivia. Thank you very much, Daniel. It is important to say that the scalability of the information is of the utmost importance in order to be able to project the growth and the scaling of chestnuts in Bolivia. I hope we have depicted this at a local level, and I will give the floor back to John. Well, thank you very much, Marcus. Thank you, Sarah and Danielle. Your presentations have been excellent. And this is a small sample that proves that there are the necessary resources in order to produce chestnuts in the Amazonia. Next, we are going to the scaling up. Y ahora, perdón, me disculpo porque voy a hablar en inglés y yo quisiera presentarles a ustedes a Isabel Castillo, es la directora nacional de Global Experience
Enterprises for local communities. And Isabel will lead the discussion on scaling up. So Isabel, welcome, and welcome to the group.
Gracias, John. Un gusto. Y nada, muchísimas gracias.
It's my pleasure, and thank you very much for the invitation in order for me to share our perspective and the experience of what we have been working with in Peru and in some other Latin American countries. When I was invited to moderate this meeting as to how to escalate production, well, very many ideas popped into my mind because we are doing very many things in our own perspective. When I read the report, I really loved the perspective you spoke of because you're speaking strengthening capacities, production, including resilience and adaptation, and something else is that we are promoting how to support all this to the extent these organizations grow, develop themselves, and how we change this perspective with very many investors who are not only focused on economic profitability, but also on how they can really make they can really make easier all this procedure. But this is not the only point. When we speak about financing in order to be able to support these organizations, when they scale, we have to open our fan of opportunities. Every organization grow as a small business, but to the extent they grow, they need more financing. Why don't we join the traditional financing group and the new one? Because in this way, this is the blind point, the dead alley. Because sometimes we see traditional financing and something which is very far away. However, we have to be very realistic. We have to see that our business is growing and we will need some other capital injections. And why don't we also resort to traditional financing? And we will be able to see that this will be good. And we need to have into account that sometimes information we do not have it, and therefore what we have to do is to really make closer the traditional and non-traditional financing works in order to allow businesses to grow. So one other thing we are strengthening in terms of the organizations we support imply which decisions we have in order to scale our business. Well, we need to speak a little bit about the financing part, but we also have to keep in mind that entrepreneurship will scale when we have in mind four very important things. First, the strategy. If finally I do not have a strategy, an internal organizational strategy in order to arrive from one point to the other, it will be very difficult to gas our car because it will not run. So it is important for us to have to take into account is that the main reason that took you here is not the one that will lead you in the future. We have to develop a strategy, but not a unique strategy. All these procedures are very organic. They are born, they grow, and they change. And I am speaking strategically wise because they become more mature in the growth they have. So as facilitators, we have to accompany this trajectory of all this and enterprises. Another thing is, well, who am I going to go with? Who will be my team members? And it's very important for us to channel all the resources we will use in our business in order to be able to assemble our chessboard. We need to see different profiles in order to work together with these people. And if I'm not good, I will have to delegate. So we have to really work this with our team in order to have this what is needed and the people who are always there. And another thing is, how do I preserve this in time? I mean cash. So I have to be very creative in order to really approach different financing options. And how can I make this happen? How can I execute what I have already planned as a plan? So it's very important that as an entrepreneur, as a facilitator, I need to see that my vision is not only my vision as an individual, but actually it's my purpose as an organization. And we need to extrapolate this vision to all the members of the community with the persons we want to work with. So we always listen before touching the wallets because this is the essence of the people. So it's very important that when we work in the field, we have to make visible our intentions with all the people we want to get in touch with. We have to do what the market wants. Of course, this is true, but at the same time, there is a market niche which is growing a lot, and these are the people who are more aware of what they buy. So we have to really open more hearts who have this type of mentality. So I think, but I know that I am on the other side. I am not an entrepreneur, but we will give you two speakers who will tell you about their story. And I would like to welcome Finette and Misael in order for him to tell us about the challenges and opportunities AFINEP is creating in Peru.
Thank you very much, Isabel. First, I want to thank God for this opportunity and to share with you what we are doing in this territory, in this wonderful place called the Amazonic region. I am representative of the Federación Departamento de Azaí and Frutos Amazónicos. We were created in 2017 to improve the livelihood of our communities and in order to reach markets, as Isabel was saying, because that's very important in order to consolidate the development of our region in a sustainable way. Our organization represents different associations in Pando region. That is AFIPAN in Puerto Rico, 3 at Santa Rosa de Lauda, AFAI and ASICOP. We have 2 organizations in Philadelphia, ARFAT Petroninga and ASINEFER in Amanuni Reserve, and our organization that is Collector Trinchera Association at Porvenir. In our associations, we have a wonderful possibility of raw material of approximately 670,000 tons. And on 2021, we have produced and processed approximately 240 tons. That is approximately 80% of acai pulp or finished goods, to escalate by 22 or 23 to 600 tons of finished good pulp. This is with respect to what we've been doing as association, as a federation, and at the Pando area, additional to institutions that are working solo. I also want to tell you that we have, or we used rather, 1.5% of the Panda region territory, so we still have a lot to do. Next. With respect to what we are doing in our association and the objectives that we've had is to improve the way we work in the association. We were talking about the sustainable use. At Pando, and those of you who know this region will prove me right, we were not working in a sustainable way. We would cut down the trees or the palm trees. That is the acai palm tree and some other type of palm tree in order to use. We cut it down, and therefore we lost the palm tree in the region. Today, we have best collection practices, namely the people who are going to be working in this will learn or are learning already techniques and use tools in order to harvest and in order to manage the forest in a sustainable way without cutting down our palm trees. I think that this is what we call a sustainable and good quality collection in order to have good quality products at the end of the day. Part of the objective has been to improve the transformation processes. That is to learn good practices of manufacturing. That is very, very important, and that is comes as part of the demand of the client and the market. And as you can very well tell on screen, on the left you see how we were working on 2014, 2015. We were pretty much working manually, and today, to the right, you can see how we are working with processing plants with better equipment and machinery in order to have products with the necessary sanitary registration and certifications, so that consumers have the quality of a very good product, nourishing product, and of course good quality transformation. What we've been working at the federation level, the federation has consolidated actions and achieved the objective of having bylaws and legal personality as well as regulations in 2020, and we have also achieved growth in production of what we were doing in the past years. In 2015 or 17, we are escalating, and we already have the goal of 620 tons that as I mentioned. That is a lot of raw material, and of course the economic resources that are brought to our communities that no longer want to go to the larger cities because they can work at the processing plant and collection activities in order to mitigate migration this narrative is changing. People are thinking on even coming back to the Amazonic region because there's a source of income. Likewise, we have been working on our legal safety in order to have better commercial linkages and investment. They are already chartered, and they are people who know very well agreements and the management of volumes, and that's what we're seeing today. So I think that this legal or better legal standing in order to negotiate with markets and to have access to support has allowed us to be successful. Next, please. I believe that this is the last slide, but I want to give you a takeaway. As Isabel was saying, it is important to escalate production, but escalate production not only keeping an eye on money. I think that the Amazonic region is standing because of these wonderful fruits. If you eat product that comes all the way from the Peruvian Amazonic region, from our communities, we are helping our people to stay at the forest, but without affecting the vulnerable ecosystem that we have, and to have the transformation activity at the forest, and leaving at the same time our region in a good standing and allowing us to have this wonderful ecosystem that is so important for the world. Thank you very much, and God bless. Thank you, Misael. I said AFIMAC, and I'm sorry, I apologize. You are from FEDAFAP. Oh, no problem. Yes, what you are saying is very important. The growth that you've had, the support that you've had, the strategic allies along the way, and how important it is when we talk about financing, not only to talk about as work capital, but also in some areas in order to have research and development in order to add more value to our products. And it was wonderful to listen to what you were saying, that is to use also resort to the domestic market, to have the opportunity of developing that domestic market and grow it, but also cherishing what we have, because otherwise we'll have nothing. And I think that we can generate money and still protect our natural resources. Now, in order to listen to Peru, we have Martin with AFIMAD. Martin, please. Good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for having me this morning to share with you our experience as AFIMAD. AFIMAD was organized 10 years ago, and at Madre de Dios we have a federation that is FEDAMAD, but it's only political. There are many needs at the different communities. Of course, one part of it is the economic and productive portion of it. Now, according to our experiences as Native communities, we've seen the need to create an association. We first thought about a multi-co-proprietor organization, but we did not know how to manage a company. At the end of the day, we chartered an association. And with it, we have filled the gap and the void because we need, of course, the resources at a community level. And that is how AFIMAD was created, with the aim at creating a co-producer organization and increase the level of life at our communities. because we have very precarious circumstances and at all times working in a collection, transformation of our product that is chestnut. At each community, we have a chestnut community representing AFIMAT in order to work with the producers internally so that everything that we've done is well registered in this regard. Now, in order to be able to do this, we have worked with different organizations like CESPI, ACA, Rainforest Alliance, Not for Set, IDEN, WWF, CEL4, among others. Thank you to all of them. AFIMAT can keep on moving forward. AFIMAT has two native communities as part of it. Palma Real, Sonene, Tres Islas, Puerto Arturo, Bocatayamán, Santa Teresita, Puerto Nuevo, Monte Salvado, Boiquisidigüe, Mille Colcohuayes, Infierno as well. And with these communities, we are working in different activities, of course. Next one, please. Now, with respect to the Brazil nut activity, before that, we used to work only with timber, but due to the lack of investment and the resources, our brothers used to sell at pretty much 10 soles each tree. That was not enough. I mean, they were only contributing for the wealth of other people. I mean, they were not making money. They were only working for other people, and the economy did not improve for our brothers and sisters. And AFIMAT, we started working with Brazil nut, not chestnut, but Brazil nut. And we realized that therefore we are not affecting our forests, we are not cutting down our palm trees, and our communities stopped the timbering activity, and we started working in the growing of Brazil nut. The idea, of course, is to preserve our community forests. We have done this with an organic certification, and in 2014 we had the fair trade certification as well. And why is this so important? Well, because therefore we can ensure the market and increase the price of the Brazil nut. Communities do not only work with the Brazil nut. No, it is something more integral. We have allies, and we have projects, and we implement fisheries and reforestation of Brazil nut, of course, art crafts, and the extraction of timber, but from a commercial point of view and controlled point of view, and of course tourism. We do this with AFIMAT at our native communities. We also look for buyers and enter agreements with Candela Peru and some other companies, Pescando Plata, and now we're working with Caroluf, exploiting the product directly. That means that we are more independent right now from an economic point of view. We are no longer working only for the companies. We are exporting the Brazil nut directly to the U.S. We also have a collection center where we can manage our Brazil nut the best possible way, all the way to the processing plant. This experience has taught us, and based on our native community vocation to work with the Brazil nut, we have learned that the best possible way to take our products to the market is working together. On the one hand, of course, for the sake of volume, and of course, sell under the best possible conditions to the companies. Us native communities have an area in our forests that are divided into areas. We have a portion for Brazil nut, and we have areas for other purposes. In order, of course, to protect our forests, because we are working in a forest protection program. All the AFIMAC members, we take care of our forest, we monitor the forest, and we comply with the standards. Even though we don't have enough financing, we can work, but still financing is a true challenge, and we try to obtain it at a national and international level. We are currently working with Agrobanco, and hopefully we'll have financing for this harvest, this upcoming harvest. Well, thank you very much. I would love to keep on listening to what you have to say. Thank you very much to what you shared with us. And I would like to summarize what Misael and Martin have said based on their wonderful experiences. Thank you very much for sharing. And as facilitators and promoters of these organizations, we have to focus on what is it that we are doing. We are contributing with capital, of course, for the different needs at the Amazonic communities, and to provide access to financial and economic services. It is important to see how can we make impact more tangible from a social and environmental standpoint, because then this is more this is taken place into account by investors, and of course not only money, but how much I'm contributing to our planet, and so that is also transformed into money. So I want to leave you with these 3 ideas of what I learned from Misael and Martin's experience. Thank you very much to both of you. John.
Thank
Muchísimas gracias, Isabel, Misael y Martín.
you. Those elements that are there that once again show that there are the pieces to begin to get to scale in the Amazon. And appreciate you all sharing your experiences with us. The unknown variable, though, is climate change. And in our next session, we're going to talk about how building climate resilience and adaptation into the forests and into these small and medium-sized enterprises is key to be able to have a long-term future for the conservation of the Amazon. So I'd like to pass this on to James Hardcastle. He's the associate director for the Global Protected and Conserved Area Program for IUCN there in Switzerland. Thanks for staying up a little late, James, to be with us here today, and I will pass this off to you.
Muchas gracias. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very muchísimas.
Humble and privileged to listen to these presentations by Martin, and thanks Isabel for the previous session on scaling up. And I think when we think of bioeconomy and we think of scaling up, we tend to think in terms of volume of finance and the amount of production. But really, what we need to see scaling up is the connection to approaches and to organizations such as yours to really see scaling up as growing something from strong roots, growing it up. And this really means that public and private investors need to incorporate these elements that we're facing. And I won't mention the pandemic again, but this ability to support good governance, to support a kind of a diversified production, and scaling up through the kind of the local channels, local connection, peer-to-peer knowledge, local agents, and two-way information flow. I'm sitting here in Switzerland, I'm learning far more than I'm contributing. Every time, you know, we join, we're able to share some more and try and amplify these stories and local lessons. And, you know, Martin's last slide on lessons learned, that is gold. That's really what, you know, really needs to be invested in. And then bioeconomy is built on, you know, financing the whole resilience, including safety nets, including this information flow, including diversified production. And so I'd like to just pass quickly, in the interest of time, straight to Hilda Maria Cordero and then to Aribaldo Maura Silva. And they are really going to give us some more nuggets of solutions, of real results on the ground on what does it mean to invest in and scale up resilience to climate change. So over please to Hilda from the Comunidad Nativa de Infierno, por favor.
Muy buenos días, soy de la Comunidad Nativa de Infierno. Trabajamos con...
My name is Hilda Cordera. We are conservationists for the community, and we have to preserve this more. And we are working to really project what we are doing with our cocoa project to some other communities. We have worked a little. We have had 9 hectares that we have in common with the Infierno community. We need to work more. We are about 300 families, common growers, 300 families, but we have to be further supported for the project we are doing in order for us to work with our land. We do not want to damage our territory. We want to protect it, and we have cocoa and citric fruits, just like lemon, lime, and orange. And we also have tourism. Tourism gives us protection to protected areas. However, in 2020, all the production, all the areas will have problems. So this affected our economy. But now in 2021, we are trying to reserve our territories as a community, planting citric fruits in order to protect our agriculture, to work with young people, with adults in terms of infrastructure, the one we have to create. We have also working. We are working in 9 hectares, 17 families with the cocoa project, and we have about 9 hectares, well, actually 21 hectares in the native community, and we are trying to protect the green areas. And we would like to be supported with citric fruits, orange and lemons. In order to protect these areas, we need to preserve what we have. We have made further improvements in recent years. We have the cocoa, citric fruits, and everything which is citric, in order to use it better. We can use this for our children and grandchildren. And I would also like to work with all the communities having orchards, just like citric fruit and timber products in the correct amount in order to be able to work with them. And not only for 17 families, but for hundreds of families in order for us to have a sound community and give each family the portion of the citric fruits. And we will also like to have this with the co-proprietors in order to be able to work with them. So this is the next endeavor. So this is what we request to be helped by you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Hilda. Very, very interesting. Now we can give the floor to Mr. Adivaldo Moura Silva, the Director of Sustainable Development for the Pando government in Bolivia at CEDEPRO. Adivaldo, you have the floor. Good afternoon to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for the invitation to participate at this forum and to tell you that the Pando Department has 60 million hectares, out of which 84% of its surface is covered by the Amazonian forest. And taking a look at the department, the governance of the Pando Department as a department government is in its management programs, it has prioritized the productive development with the activado. This means that we have to make use of all the potential we have as a department and transform it for the sake of the people, the communities who live there. And for this purpose, public development policies will have to be implemented in order to benefit these communities, improving their standard of living, their productive capacity, and what has to be done as a state is to facilitate activities so that we will be able to move forward and living fine in the forests towards the cities. And this is something we know as to migrations we have. For this purpose, the department government has taken as a development role, and what is being supported is that forests have to really stand up. The department has 84% of Amazonian forests, and there's a large potential of wildlife, people's society, indigenous peoples, and all the people who live there. And these development models imply a productive development that will really preserve the forest. These management models, the ones I was telling you about as a department, we are implementing mechanisms that contribute to the implementation and the fight. We have to fight against climate change in order to protect Mother Earth. Well, these models are implemented in several communities and productive initiatives that make use of resources using non-timber products, just like Palma Real, cocoa, Brazil, nuts, acai. And we are implementing all this. We are supporting all these initiatives, developmental initiatives that can support this productive chain that goes from gathering the products until they are transformed and traded. One of the problems, and this is important, we have large amounts of resources which are susceptible to be used, but sometimes communities are isolated very far away, and this makes difficult the market issue. So the government through CEDEPRO is supporting and promoting spaces to open markets for the Amazonia. In this way, we are supporting families who have in order for them to have economic incomes through the sale of Brazil nuts, acai, and some other products that come to the forest, which has to be on its feet, and all the initiatives that will support what the forest is producing. We, as DEPRO, as the government, is being supported. And also through the governance and with the support of ASEA, we are creating the Conservatory of Amazonian Fruits and Climate Change, which is a virtual platform where all the productive initiatives and the ones that really use these decisions will help us to develop the technical records and some other information that will help us with acai, coco azul, and others. And following or along this line, this supporting line, in order to really preserve and keep forests on their feet. And all this initiative that non-departmental government has make that this institution, whether they are public, of private, or NGO, so we have to really compass what we want with the department. So very many times the departmental endeavors that have been made will be fostered because we did not have this type of implementation. So we had not implemented this development public policies so that in the near future, 4, 5, 6 years, we will be exporting products that have been made or transformed, the products we have in our forests. So at present, only Brazil nuts are exported, and Pando has become as a single Brazil nut producer. And this makes populations aware that a single product is a seasonal product, sporadic product, and this makes economy to be very specific in Pando. So how the governorship really wants to diversify this production. So I think that real quick, real soon, will not be depending upon one single exportation product, which is Brazil nuts, but we will be able to export cocoa, aguaçu, majo, and its byproducts, their byproducts. So in a prudent framework of time, we will arrive at internal post markets because this will really facilitate that the populations and the ones who are understanding all this in these sectors will be able to receive and be supported in terms of public policies, in terms of legal certainty or any other aspects that will allow them to have access to the certification that will give rise to brands. So the department government is really willing to complement. I'm sorry, but can we have some key issues in order to have a conclusion? Yes, I am about to wrap up. Finally, it is important to mention that a platform has been created, and this is a platform aimed at promoting all the Amazonian fruits. This is a private-public association that promotes the strengthening and the diversification of Amazonian fruits. And as you see, we need to speak about public policies for this sector. It does articulate what must be made between private and public entities, as I have told you. And this also wants to standardize and to be able to use the standardization of these priority resources. Since time is short, I want to thank you, and I hope that in this very quick summary, we have been able to mention or synthesize what the governorship is supporting and wants to make visible in the near future. One other mission of our governorship is to really make use of forest resources, guaranteeing social participation and environmental balance so that we will benefit our people with all these policies that can be implemented. Thank you very much.
Your platform is really innovative and your presentation was very clear. Thank you. I will hand back over to John, but just to reiterate that a bioeconomy is built on a resilient and enabled fair network of local actors, and that is what we're seeing through all these presentations, that is where the scaling up needs to occur, is the connection with local actors and giving them the opportunities to diversify, to be innovative, to connect and to share. And that this information is definitely two ways. The monitoring needs to be analyzed and fed back in, but really it's the knowledge locally and the ability of local actors to assess and to understand the different changes that they're facing are really important in making sure that a bioeconomy is sustainable, that it is built on those strong foundations. So thanks. Over to you, John.
Thanks a lot, James. And first of all, I appreciate everybody who presented today. And we're running a little short on time. We have a few great questions from the audience, and I want to promise to everybody that what we will do is we will answer these questions and send them back out written to all of you, because we won't get to all of them. But I'm at least going to make the attempt to do one question. I'm going to do it in Spanish since the questions are coming in Spanish. And la primera pregunta, Daniel, es para ti. Y viene de Ricardo Sanchez.
The first question is from Ricardo Sanchez. Can forest products can contribute to cattle growing and also soybean? Well, we have to keep in mind that these businesses depend upon the property of land. Of course, the fruits of the forest, first of all, the forest is property of the growers, and then livestock and soybean are linked to private interests, therefore they are different. So we know that in Bolivia there is profitability with respect to soy, and we know that the land, of course, is suitable for that. But in the northern portion of Bolivia, the property of the land is of growers and indigenous people, and the costs of production are low, and profitability is good, but linked to that link of the chain, that is the primary portion. There is also private investment linked to beneficiary companies that dry and peel and export. There's additional investment there that's private, but these companies are mainly in Cobija and Rivera Alta, two cities. This is, regardless of the fact, something very interesting, and it's mainly for Pando. Profitability is for each of the communities that work with Brazil nut. So we're talking about the Amazonia, working with the land, and then we're talking about livestock and soy in other areas. We're talking about the growers' property of the land, and on the other hand, the companies or other people. Thank you very much for your answer. An additional question, and then we will wrap up. It's for Martin. And the question, Martin, is how can people living in countries that buy and consume Brazil nut contribute to AFIMAT and help it to increase its resources and its size and activities? We only have 2 minutes, Martin, please. I think that one of the bottlenecks that we have as native communities, and based on our experience, has to do with financing. We would love to see buyers like Aronuf to contribute with down payments and with low interests. Could help us. That's the way they can help us. And another motivation for the growth of the Brazil nut grower has to do with fair trade, and that things come back to us. Therefore, the Brazil nut activity will sooner or later come back to us. We have to take care of our land, and we have to take care of all these resources and the preservation of our forests. And we have different motivations at different levels. So financing, I would say. With low interests, that would be wonderful, because even though we've had experiences with a bank and we have been meeting our payments and everything, we're up to date and everything, of course, financing is the bottleneck. And we are anyway selling Brazil nut, I mean, that's for sure, and so that could be our way to ensure payment. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have some other questions, but we won't have time for that. It is important to wrap up the event today.
Well, I want to thank Fabiola Munoz for being here with us today. Fabiola is the former Minister of Agriculture and former Minister of Environment for Peru, also the former Executive Director of Peru's National Forest and Wildlife Service, SURFOR. I think it's an amazing feat to be a minister in any country for anything, but to be it for two different aspects is incredible. Also, very proud to say that Fabiola is a board member of our sister organization, ACA in Peru. So without further ado, Fabiola, please, if you could help us close.
Muchas gracias, John. Y otra vez
Thank you, John. And back to Spanish. I will try to do it very quickly. But what a wonderful session we've had. And just to think that it is possible to develop bioeconomy as an option for people from the Amazon region, and I think that we have been astonished with the experiences. That picture of the before and after for the use of acai, of the transformation and of acai has been astonishing, and I think that we have all shared incredible experiences. I would like to mention three. Number one, access to information. How relevant is information to make good decisions at different levels? Not only that of the grower, but also that of public policy, financing, of course, the market, of course, and all the different stakeholders that call for good information. And that is part of what we have to do. That is to improve our teamwork. And of course, to share an open government. It should not only be for the government, but also for the private sector and community. So information is number one. The second one is financing. One of our colleagues has just mentioned that they cannot grow and move forward if they don't have financing with very small, low interests or no interest. And business people should see a possibility of investing because they are already contributing and generating environmental conditions for the forest to prevail, and that it has to do with a good name and financing. I love that. It has been very, very interesting to listen to Isabel, what she's saying in terms of growth of entrepreneurial activities is organic. And they will no longer be as they used to be. We have to learn how to grow and talk about this language of the two worlds. And access to information is critical, and we also have to work with the financial institutions on the one hand, but on the other, to prove that these are profitable businesses, scalable businesses. And the element number 3 is how do we scale? How can we go from these good stories or entrepreneurship of cooperatives into a development model with a landscape focus, with an integral focus of the territory, where we have not only a product. We've seen, of course, the relevance of Brazil nuts, but also its fragility in terms of price, in terms of production, and all the things that go with it. So how could we have an array of possibilities? And I think that some of the lessons shared in terms of diversification of products is very, very important. I have my wonderful Brazil nut product, and I love it. And we have to allow consumers to know how to contribute, being responsible, and of course, making a difference. We, in Switzerland, in Spain, in China, or wherever we are, we can make a decision on what product we sell. And certifications, of course, are very, very important. So we have to educate consumers, and we should look for certifications like fair trade or organic and so forth in terms of characteristics. A friend of mine who is living in Peru, every time she went to the grocery store, she looked for this shade type coffee, and if not, perhaps it was from a deforested area. So I think that this event has proven that it is possible to have an economy based on diversity and necessary elements, of course. But we still have a long way to go. We have challenges ahead of us. And if we work together, we will be able to make things possible. Climate change is right behind us, knocking at our door. So we have to increase the pace, this sense of urgency. Thank you very much. Thank you for the lessons shared. I am inspired. I'm happy and thankful for having the opportunity of collaborating in this session, John and all of you. Thank you very much. And with this, I wrap up this part of the event. Thank you very much to the organizers.
For doing that for us. You've also inspired us with your words. So we appreciate that. And there's nothing left for me to say except to thank everyone who has been on the panel and the moderators for the work you did preparing for this. Very appreciative. Thank you, Fabiola, so much for your great words at the end. Thank you, Tom Lovejoy, for kicking us off at the beginning. there's still so much to do, so much to discuss to really get to a bioeconomy at the scale of the Amazon. And I think we can do it. We've saw it today. And with the great words of all of you, I'm inspired to really get us moving in the right direction here for a sustainable Amazon. So thank you all for being on board with this discussion today. Thank you, everyone in the audience. And we hope to keep this conversation going with you. Take care, and thank you very much.